What happens when a corrupt cop, used to abusing his power, finally meets someone who won't back down? When Officer Reed, a racist cop with a history of brutality, unleashes his K-9 on a black army general, he thinks he's untouchable. But what he doesn't realize is that karma is coming for him, fast and hard. And this time, there's no badge to hide behind. This is a story of justice, action, and payback like you've never seen before. You do not want to miss this, but before we dive in, I have a question for you. Have you ever witnessed or experienced an abuse of power? What would you do if you were in the general's shoes? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget, if you love powerful stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and share for more. Also, let me know where in the world you're watching from. I love seeing how far our stories reach. Now, let's get into it. The sun had barely dipped below the horizon when General Marcus Graves stepped out of his black SUV, dressed in civilian clothes but carrying the unmistakable presence of a man who had spent decades leading soldiers into battle. He had just returned from a classified mission overseas, and tonight, all he wanted was a quiet drive home. But fate had other plans. The moment he crossed into the small town of Denton, Texas, flashing red and blue lights erupted behind him. "Great," he muttered, pulling over to the side of the road. Marcus was no stranger to traffic stops. He had been in the military long enough to know how to handle authority, even when it was undeserved. He rolled down his window, keeping both hands on the steering wheel as the officer approached. A burly cop with a buzz cut and cold blue eyes leaned into the window. His name tag read Officer Reed, license and registration. Reed barked, his hand resting on his holster. Marcus remained calm. "Good evening, officer. May I ask why I'm being pulled over?" Reed's lip curled. "Did I ask you to talk, boy?" "I said, license and registration." Marcus inhaled deeply, suppressing his frustration. He reached slowly for his wallet, careful to avoid any sudden movements. But before he could even retrieve it, Reed yanked open the door and grabbed him by the arm. "Step out of the vehicle." "What the hell is this about?" Marcus demanded. "I said, step out." Marcus was a patient man, but his patience had limits. "Officer, I'm a United States Army general." "I don't know what." Reed's eyes darkened. "I don't give a damn if you're the president. Get your ass out of the car." Marcus clenched his jaw. He had fought in wars, faced enemies who wanted nothing more than to see him dead. But standing here, on American soil, being treated like a criminal by a man who was supposed to protect citizens, it stung in a way bullets never had. Still, he complied. As soon as Marcus stepped out, Reed shoved him against the SUV. "What the hell are you doing?" Marcus growled. Reed smirked. "Just making sure you don't have anything dangerous on you." Another officer, a younger man with a nervous expression, approached from behind. Reed, I don't think this guy's." "Shut up, Daniels," Reed snapped before turning back to Marcus. "What's in the trunk?" "Luggage," Marcus said evenly. Reed chuckled. "Luggage? Or stolen goods?" Marcus had enough. "Open the damn trunk and see for yourself." Reed yanked open the SUV's rear door and began rummaging through the bags, tossing them onto the pavement like trash. His expression soured when all he found were clothes and a neatly packed military uniform. Daniels paled. "Sir. That's a 4-star general's uniform." Reed ignored him. "You got drugs in here, boy." Marcus's hands curled into fists. "Watch your mouth." Reed smirked. "What, you gonna do something about it?" Marcus stared him down, refusing to take the bait. Then, Reed's radio crackled. "Suspect matching your traffic stop just robbed a gas station 2 miles away," the dispatcher said. Reed's grin widened. Well. Looks like we got ourselves a criminal." Daniels shook his head. "That doesn't make sense. This guy was already pulled over when." Reed ignored him again. "On your knees." Marcus scoffed. "You have no reason to detain me." Reed's smirk vanished. "I said on your knees." "No." Reed's hand went to his belt. Marcus expected a gun. Instead, Reed unclipped something else, a leash. Attached to it was a snarling German shepherd. Marcus's blood ran cold. Reed's voice was pure malice. "You're gonna learn some respect, boy." With a sharp command, he let the dog loose. Marcus had faced enemy combatants. He had fought in urban warfare. But never, not once, Did he expect to be attacked by a police dog in his own country? The beast lunged, Marcus moved, years of military training kicked in as he twisted his body, dodging the dog's snapping jaws. The German Shepherd circled back, preparing to strike again. Reed laughed. "Oh, this is gonna be fun." But before the dog could attack again, headlights flooded the scene, a sleek black vehicle screeched to a halt. Doors flew open, and men stepped out, armed. Silent, deadly, Reed's smile vanished. Daniels froze. Marcus stood tall, because his backup had arrived. Reed's smirk faltered as the figures stepped out of the sleek black vehicle. They moved with precision, silent, calculating, dangerous. Marcus didn't need to turn around to know who they were. He had spent years training men like them. These weren't ordinary civilians, they were special forces. Daniels swallowed hard. Officer Reed, maybe we should, shut the hell up, Daniels, Reed snapped, gripping the leash as his German Shepherd growled, ready to pounce again. Marcus remained still, his eyes locked onto Reed's. "I warned you." Reed scoffed. "Warned me? You think a couple of your buddies showing up changes anything? I don't give a damn who you are. This is my town." One of the men stepped forward, his face partially concealed by the shadow of his cap. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and exuded an aura of pure authority. His voice was cold, sharp. "Stand down." Reed snorted. "Or what?" The man's response was simple. He pulled back his jacket, revealing a Black Ops badge. Daniels stiffened. "Oh, hell." Reed, however, was too arrogant to recognize the storm he had just invited upon himself. Instead of backing down, he did something reckless. He unclipped the leash. "Get him, Rex." He snarled. The German Shepherd lunged, but this time, Marcus was ready. With reflexes honed from years on the battlefield, he sidestepped the attack, grabbed the dog mid-air, and twisted, using the animal's momentum to redirect its force. The dog yelped as it tumbled, landing on the pavement with a startled whimper. Reed's eyes widened. Marcus didn't hesitate. He spun, his arm striking out with precision, and landed a brutal elbow across Reed's face. The impact sent the officer staggering backward, blood spraying from his nose. Daniels took a step back. "Oh, damn," before Reed could recover, one of Marcus's men stepped in, pressing the barrel of a silenced pistol against the officer's temple. "Move," the soldier growled, "and you die." For the first time, Reed looked scared. Daniels, hands raised, took slow steps away. "Listen, guys, I didn't sign up for this. I told him to back off." Marcus ignored him, his focus locked on Reed. He wiped a speck of blood from his knuckles and crouched down. "Let me explain something to you," he said quietly. "You don't know me. You don't know who I am. But what you do know is that you just made the biggest mistake of your miserable life." Reed glared, but there was uncertainty in his eyes now. Marcus continued. "I've faced warlords more ruthless than you. I've dismantled terrorist networks in silence. And right now, I have half a mind to end this right here." Reed tensed. The man with the gun pressed the barrel harder against his skull. Marcus stood and exhaled slowly, running a hand over his shaved head. "No," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "Not yet." He turned to his men. "Secure them." Within seconds, Reed was yanked off the ground, his arms wrenched behind his back. Zip ties secured his wrists before he could even think about resisting. Daniels, trembling, dropped to his knees before anyone even touched him. Marcus glanced at the German Shepherd, who was now cowering near the police cruiser, ears flat against its head. The dog wasn't the problem. The Real animal had just been caught. One of Marcus's men spoke up. "Orders, sir." Marcus inhaled deeply, glancing at the night sky. He had a plan, one that would make sure Reed never terrorized anyone again, but first, he had a phone call to make. Marcus pulled out his phone, his fingers steady as he dialed a number he rarely used. The line barely rang twice before a deep, authoritative voice answered. "Graves." "It's me," Marcus said. "I need a favor." There was a pause on the other end before the voice responded. "Where are you?" "Denton, Texas." A sigh. "What happened?" Marcus turned, looking down at the restrained officer Reed, whose once arrogant face now dripped with sweat. Daniel sat nearby, hands raised in submission, too scared to move. I had an incident with a cop, Marcus said. A racist one. One who thought setting a K-9 on me was a good idea. The voice on the line darkened. Is he breathing? Marcus smirked. For now. A low chuckle. You want me to make some calls? No. Marcus's eyes burned into Reed's. I'm handling this myself. But I need Denton PD's chain of command. Names. Records. Anything you can find. Give me 10 minutes. Marcus hung up. Reed, who had remained silent, finally found his voice. You're making a big mistake, he snarled, struggling against the zip ties. You don't know who you're messing with. Marcus crouched beside him, his presence looming over the defeated officer. You just tried to sick a dog on a U.S. Army general. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath the surface. So tell me, who exactly am I messing with? Reed's jaw clenched. Daniels, still kneeling with his hands up, shook his head. Sir, please. I didn't know who you were. I swear I had nothing to do with this. Marcus glanced at him. Then why didn't you stop him? Daniels swallowed. I tried. Marcus didn't respond. He simply stared until Daniels looked away. One of Marcus's men, a soldier named Carter, stepped forward. What do we do with them, sir? Marcus was about to respond when his phone buzzed. A text message, check your email. Marcus opened the encrypted folder that had just been sent to him. His eyes scanned the files, and a slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. Officer Reed had a record, internal complaints. Brutality reports. Racial profiling. All buried under bureaucratic nonsense. And worst of all, he had killed before. Marcus exhaled sharply. His grip tightened around the phone as a storm brewed inside him. This wasn't just a traffic stop gone wrong, this was a pattern. Reed's voice cut through the silence. You think you can do something to me? He sneered. I am the law in this town. Marcus tilted his head. Not anymore. He stood and turned to his men. We take him. Reed's bravado shattered. Wait, what? Carter pulled him up roughly, ignoring his protests. Daniels, still kneeling, looked up with fear. What about me? He asked shakily. Marcus studied him. Daniels wasn't innocent. But he wasn't a threat either. Go home, Marcus said. And if I ever hear about you standing by while another cop abuses their power, we'll be having a different conversation. Daniels nodded frantically and scrambled to his feet, running toward his cruiser like a man who had just been granted a second life. Marcus turned back to Reed, who was now fully restrained and breathing hard. Where are you taking me? Reed stammered. Marcus smirked. Somewhere you'll never forget. He motioned to his men. The black SUV's trunk popped open, and Officer Reed was thrown inside. Reed thrashed inside the trunk as the SUV sped down the darkened highway. His muffled curses and frantic kicks against the metal walls were ignored by the men in the vehicle. Marcus sat in the front passenger seat, staring out into the night. His jaw was clenched, his fingers drumming lightly against his knee. Carter, driving, glanced at him. Where to, sir? Marcus took a deep breath. We're taking him somewhere memorable. The SUV veered off the main road, heading toward the outskirts of town. The darkness thickened as they drove further into the wilderness. Towering trees cast long shadows, and the road turned from smooth asphalt to rough gravel. Reed's struggling grew more desperate. Marcus finally spoke. Open the trunk. Carter hit a switch, and the vehicle came to a slow stop. The trunk door lifted with a mechanical hum. Reed tumbled out, gasping for air. His face was drenched in sweat, and his uniform was wrinkled from the struggle. He rolled onto his back, chest heaving. Marcus stepped out of the SUV, boots crunching against the gravel. He stood over Reed, hands on his hips. On your feet. Reed spat blood onto the ground but obeyed, albeit unsteadily. His eyes darted around, scanning the darkness. Where the hell are we? Marcus smirked. Far from help. The other soldiers emerged from the vehicle, surrounding Reed like wolves closing in on wounded prey. Reed swallowed hard. You can't do this. You're military. There are rules. Marcus took a slow step forward. Rules? He let out a low chuckle. You mean the rules you broke when you attacked an unarmed man? When you unleashed a K-9 on me? Reed had no answer. Marcus tilted his head. You know what I see when I look at you? Reed glared but said nothing. I see a coward. Marcus's voice was quiet, but every word was sharp as a blade. A man who hides behind a badge to feel powerful. But out here, there's no badge. No backup. Just you. Reed's bravado flickered. Marcus turned to Carter. Untie him. Carter hesitated. Sir. Marcus nodded. Let him fight. Carter shrugged. Then pulled out a knife and sliced through the zip ties. Reed rubbed his wrists, then backed up a step. His eyes darted to the woods, considering an escape. Marcus sighed. Don't even think about it. Reed hesitated, then lunged. Marcus barely moved. His reflexes were too sharp, too refined. The moment Reed swung, Marcus ducked. A sharp jab to the gut sent the officer stumbling backward. Marcus followed up with a brutal knee to the ribs. Reed gasped, doubling over. Marcus didn't stop. He pivoted and struck Reed's temple with a precise elbow, sending him sprawling into the dirt. The officer groaned, rolling onto his side, dazed. Marcus crouched next to him. Not so tough without your badge. Huh. Reed wheezed. Marcus sighed. Get up. Reed didn't move. Marcus stood, rolling his shoulders. Guess we're done here. He motioned to Carter. Load him up. We're not finished with him yet. Reed coughed. Where are we going now? Marcus smirked. You'll see. The soldiers hoisted Reed back into the SUV. The night was far from over. The SUV rumbled through the darkness, bouncing over uneven terrain as it sped toward its destination. The only sound inside was the rhythmic hum of the tires and Reed's heavy breathing. Marcus sat in the front, his fingers lightly tapping the armrest. The air inside the vehicle was thick with tension. Reed, still restrained in the back seat, finally found his voice. Where the hell are you taking me? His voice wavered, laced with fear. Marcus didn't answer. Reed twisted in his seat, turning toward Carter, who was driving. Hey, man, listen, this has gone far enough. You don't know what kind of trouble you're bringing down on yourselves. Carter scoffed. Funny, I was about to say the same thing to you. Reed gritted his teeth. You can't do this. I'm a police officer. Marcus finally turned, his piercing gaze locking onto Reed. You're a disgrace to that uniform. The SUV slowed as they approached an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The massive structure loomed in the moonlight, its rusted exterior giving it an eerie presence. Carter cut the engine. The silence was deafening. Marcus stepped out first, rolling his shoulders. The night air was cool against his skin. He turned and signaled for the others. The back doors swung open. Reed was dragged out, his boots scraping against the gravel as he struggled. I swear, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. He spat. Marcus ignored him and motioned to Carter. Inside. The group moved swiftly, pushing through the heavy steel doors of the warehouse. The interior was dimly lit, the air thick with dust. Reed was forced into the center of the open space, his hands still bound. His breathing was ragged. Marcus paced slowly, his boots echoing against the concrete floor. You've had power your whole life, haven't you? Reed's nostrils flared. I earned my badge. Marcus let out a humorless chuckle. You didn't earn anything. You abused it. Reed's eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape. What do you want? Money? A deal? Marcus's jaw clenched. I want justice. Reed swallowed hard. Marcus stopped pacing. I did my homework on you. You've been in internal affairs reports for years. Excessive force. Racial profiling. You even killed a man in custody, and got away with it. Reed stiffened. Marcus tilted his head. I bet you thought it'd never catch up to you. Reed's lip curled. What do you want me to say? That I regret it? That I'm sorry? He scoffed. I don't answer to you. Marcus's expression darkened. He stepped closer, his voice dangerously low. Not yet. Carter pulled out his phone and made a call. It's time. Moments later, the warehouse doors creaked open again, footsteps echoed, a group of men entered, dressed in suits. Their presence was commanding. Their faces unreadable, Reed tensed. Who the hell are they? Marcus smirked. The people who do make you answer. Reed's face paled, the men stepped forward, and the air grew colder. The real nightmare was about to begin. Reed's heartbeat pounded in his ears as the suited men encircled him. Their presence was suffocating, their eyes cold and calculating. He could feel their judgment like a blade against his throat. Marcus took a slow step forward, his boots echoing against the concrete floor of the abandoned warehouse. He studied Reed like a predator sizing up its prey. You've spent years terrorizing people, Marcus said, his voice level. Beating, humiliating, and even killing without consequences. That ends tonight. Reed clenched his jaw, his hands still bound. You don't scare me. One of the suited men chuckled. You should be scared, Officer Reed. His voice was deep, almost amused. Do you know who we are? Reed's eyes darted between them, trying to gauge their intent. Some kind of secret police. Mercenaries? What is this, an execution squad? Marcus smirked. Something like that. Reed swallowed hard. He was good at reading people, and he could tell these men were professionals. He wasn't dealing with street thugs, these were men who operated in the shadows, where the law couldn't reach them. One of them stepped forward, adjusting his tie. We've been watching you for a long time, Reed. You've slipped through the cracks too many times. But there's a difference between being untouchable and being forgotten. You're the latter. Reed stiffened. I have friends in high places. Marcus nodded. Yeah. Let's test that theory. Carter reached into his pocket and pulled out a phone. He tossed it to Reed. Reed fumbled with his bound hands before catching it. He looked at them suspiciously. Call someone, Marcus said. Call whoever you think can save you. Reed hesitated. He had connections. He knew people who could make problems disappear. His mind raced as he scrolled through his contacts. Finally, he dialed a number. It rang, and rang, no answer. He cursed under his breath and tried another. Voicemail. His hands trembled as he tried again. Come on, he muttered. Nothing. He slowly lowered the phone, his face paling. Marcus crossed his arms. Looks like your friends don't care. Reed's throat tightened. The man in the suit took a slow step closer. You see, Officer Reed, men like you are useful to a point. But when you become a liability, you get erased. Reed shook his head. You can't just. The man grabbed him by the collar, yanking him forward. You don't get to speak. Reed's breath hitched. Marcus stepped forward. You wanted power, Reed. Here it is. Raw, undeniable power. The kind that doesn't hide behind a badge. Reed's eyes darted toward the warehouse door. Could he make a run for it? Marcus saw the thought flicker across his face. Try it. Reed bolted, his legs carried him as fast as they could. His boots thudding against the concrete. Carter sighed. Man, why do they always run? Marcus didn't move. He simply nodded to one of the suited men. A gunshot rang out. Reed's knee exploded with pain as he collapsed to the ground, screaming. Blood pooled beneath him. The shooter lowered his gun, unfazed. Reed clutched his leg, his breath ragged. You shot me. Marcus crouched beside him. And that was a warning. Reed gritted his teeth, sweat dripping down his forehead. Marcus tilted his head. We could kill you right here. But that would be too easy. Reed blinked, chest heaving. Then what do you want? Marcus smirked. To make you understand. Reed's blood ran cold. The nightmare wasn't over, it was just beginning. Reed lay on the cold concrete floor, his breath shallow, his leg throbbing from the gunshot wound. The pain was unbearable, but the fear gripping his chest was worse. These men weren't just criminals or vigilantes. They were something else, something far more dangerous. Marcus crouched beside him, his face unreadable. Do you feel powerless, Reed? Reed swallowed hard. He had spent years making others feel this exact way, helpless, broken, afraid. Now, for the first time in his life, he was on the receiving end. One of the suited men stepped forward. You've spent your entire career abusing authority, hiding behind your badge, and now? The people who protected you have abandoned you. Reed clenched his jaw. I can make things right, he croaked. I can change. Marcus chuckled. Change? You had years to change, and you didn't. The only reason you're saying that now is because you're scared. Reed tried to sit up, but Carter planted a boot on his chest, shoving him back down. You're not getting up, Carter muttered. The man in the suit pulled out a phone and tossed it at Reed's chest. You have one more call. But this time, you're not calling for help. Reed hesitated. What do you mean? Marcus leaned in. You're going to confess. Reed's breath hitched. Confess? To everything. Reed's mind raced. If he admitted to his crimes on a recorded call, he'd be ruined. Even if he somehow survived this night, his life would be over. No, he rasped. Marcus sighed. Wrong answer. Carter pressed his boot harder against Reed's ribs, making him groan in pain. The suited man bent down, grabbing Reed's chin and forcing him to meet his gaze. You're going to confess, Reed. Or you're going to disappear. Reed's blood ran cold. He had seen men vanish before, cops who got too greedy, criminals who crossed the wrong people. He had always thought he was untouchable, but not anymore. With shaking hands, he picked up the phone and dialed. It rang once before a voice answered. This is Detective Rollins. Reed's throat was dry. It's Officer Reed. A pause. Then, Reed? Where the hell are you? The entire department is looking for you. Reed's eyes darted toward Marcus, who simply nodded, signaling him to continue. I need to make a statement, Reed stammered. Another pause. A statement? Reed exhaled shakily. I've done things. Bad things. His voice cracked. I've abused my badge. I've assaulted innocent people. I falsified reports. He hesitated. Marcus's gaze hardened. Reed swallowed. I even killed a man in custody and covered it up. There was dead silence on the line. Then, Rollins spoke, his voice tight. Reed. Do you realize what you're saying? Reed let out a bitter laugh. Yeah. I do. Marcus leaned in. Tell him who ordered the cover-up. Reed clenched his jaw. Marcus pressed his finger against Reed's gunshot wound, making him scream. The chief. Reed choked out. The police chief covered it up. Rollins cursed. Reed, stay where you are. We're coming to get you. The suited man reached down and ended the call. Reed stared at him, confused. What now? Marcus stood. Now, the world knows what you are. Sirens blared in the distance. The cops were coming. The suited men exchanged nods before slipping into the shadows, vanishing as if they had never been there. Carter and Marcus stood over Reed, watching as his own brothers in blue came to collect him, not as one of their own, but as a criminal. Marcus leaned down, whispering in Reed's ear. Instant karma, officer. As the police stormed in, guns raised, Marcus and Carter stepped back, watching as Reed was dragged away in handcuffs. Justice had finally caught up to him. Wow. What a story. Officer Reed thought he could abuse his power forever, but karma had other plans. In the end, justice always finds a way, no matter how untouchable someone thinks they are. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. What do you think about what happened to Reed? Did he get what he deserved, or should his punishment have been worse? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories reach. See you in the next one.